Hello guys, I am Biswajit in the Department of Food Engineering and Technology from Tezpur University. So let's begin today's presentations. Today we are going to learn about the ISO 22000-2018, that means Food Safety Management Systems and their clauses 8 to 10. So these are the contents which are discussing in this video. Those are about ISO 22000-2018, key changes to ISO 22000-2018, benefits to an organizations for implementing a food safety management systems, food safety management system certifications and processes, how to relate it with Codex Alimentarius, ISO 22000-2018 clauses 8 to 10, and how a food safety management system can help. So here, first we should know what is ISO. It's simply International Organizations for Standardization. That means ISO is an independent non-governmental organization with a membership of 161 national standards bodies. So generally, through its member, ISO brings together experts to share knowledge and develop voluntary consider uh, basic market relevant international standards that supports innovations and provided solution to the global challenges. So let's look about ISO 22000-2018. So it is a global standard for food safety management system. It is designed to enable organizations to control the food safety hazards along the food chains. Also, it applies to all the types of sizes and organizations participating in the food chains. It was published on June 19, 2018. So here, what are the key changes to ISO 22000-2018? Let's look at brief descriptions. So first one is we say that high level structure, then risk based approach, then PDCA, that means plan do 6x cycle. Then we go for the operation process. First one is that high level structure. So let's see what are the changes is there. The new versions of ISO 22000 will follow the same structure as the other ISO management system standards. So here the high level structure, there is no changes as compared to the others. Next we move to the risk based approaches. So what are the changes is there? The new standards will now include a different approaches to the understanding risks. So risk based thinking is essential for achieving an effective food safety management systems. In those documents, risk-based thinking is addressed on two levels. One is organizational risk management and another one is operational processes. In case of a in case of a organizational risk management, risk is the effect of uncertainty, and any such uncertainty can have positive and negative effects. In the context of organizational risk management, a positive deviations arising from a risk can provide an opportunity, but not all the positive effects of risks result in opportunities. To confirm the requirements of these documents, an organization planned a implementation actions to address organizational risks. And another hands operational processes, or we can call as a hazard analysis. The concept of risk-based thinking based on the hazard principles at the operational level is implicated in these documents. The subsequent step in hazard can be considered as the necessary measures to prevent hazards or reduce hazards to acceptable levels to ensure food is safe at the time of the consumption. Decisions taken in the applications of HACCP should be based on the science, free from bias and documented. The documented should include any key assumption in the decision-making process. So one of the key changes of ISO 22000-2018 is a PDCA cycle. That means plan, do, check, act model. So here you can see that this is a cycle where each of them related to each other. So first of all is planning, then it's moved to the support operations, then it's also moved to the performance evaluation, then it's improvement, and again it's moved to the planning. So it's simply a cycle. It's creating a cycles. So PDCA cycles at the two levels. You can see PDCA cycles. The recently updated ISO 22000 requires that in addition to the organizational plan, do, check, act cycles, also known by the dimming cycles, while a Stewart cycles and following the high level structure and another PDCA cycles must be coexist, covering the operational process within the food safety systems. So you can see here, this is a structure where planes to check circles. Under the plane, there are mm, three sections. Those are context of the organization's leadership, planning, supports. Under the two sections, it contains operations, and six is performance evaluations, and 10 is improvement. So these are the clauses I am discussing in later. So under the two sections, it will covering the PRPS, traceability systems, and emergency operational and responses. So in these cycles, the 2018 version adds a general management principles to the previously isolated food safety principles of a food safety management systems. So principle of a food safety management systems are customer focused leaderships and engagement of people's process a process improvement, evidence based decision making, and relationship management. So these are the principles. Next, we move to the benefits to an organization for implementing a food safety management systems. So, what are the benefits? The first, we can say as a preventive approaches to food safety, conformance to the legal and regulatory requirements, increases creativity and reputations, improve customer satisfactions, increase in profitability of the company. So these are the some examples of benefits to an organization for implementing a food safety management system. Okay, next we move to see the food safety management system certifications. So ISO, FSSC, and HACCP are the prime bodies providing the management system certification schemes. While there are others also available, but there isn't some difference in their approaches. So here are a few features that food safety management system certifications. So one of the features is that audit approach. It's simply usually audits have a stronger focus on the management effectiveness and competence. It supports continuous improvements in areas wherever it is possible. FSSC audit is a long and is conducted is graded. So it is covered in two stages. The stage 1 audit involves the review of the food safety management systems and also takes into the account a deep review of the HACCP plan. Focus on food safety is another one of the features. So here, mostly all the management system standards follow the ISO 22000 technical specifications for PRPS covering the food safety. And mostly all the management system standards follow the same format, and therefore the integrations of those systems is easy. This means that is possible to integrate other aspects such as environmental through ISO 14001 and corporate responsibility through SJ 8000. So integrity program, another one of the features of audits. So in order to the achieve integrity of audits, it is important that all the license certification bodies meet to the FSSC requirements. This is important to ensure confidence in certifications. FSSC 22000 has an integrity program that reviews the performance of all the contracted certifications bodies. Then we move to transparency, another one of the features. Here, all the information on the food management systems and their certifications can be found on their respective websites. So this includes the details regarding the scheme requirements, decision taken by the board, name of the accelerating bodies, and also certification bodies. So supply chain approach is another one of the features. The scope of FSC 22000 is limited to manufacturing of food products, food ingredients, food packaging materials, manufacturing of feed, animal production, retail, catering, transport, and storage. So in comparison to this, ISO and other supply chain trade organizations are developing their own technical specifications. Further, ISO has also decided to bring in technical specifications for PRPS in each of the food supply chains. So here, this is a flowchart of ISO 22000-2018 certification process. First is moved to the requested for registration, then documented review, then it moved to the pre-assessments, then registrations audits, then take corrective actions. After that, registration decisions, and After certifications and publishing your registrations, and then at the last maintaining registrations and surveillance audits. So let's see that how does it related to Codex Alimentarius. So Codex Alimentarius is an internationally recognized series of standards and guidelines, references in many national laws. So providing the foundations for most government authorities to ensure safe food for consumers. So ISO 22000 is based on the Codex principles for food hygienic, and this enables authorities to the refers to ISO 22000 in national requirements and government inspections to ensure that all the criteria for food safety are met. So now we are discussing about the ISO 22000 and their clauses. So first one of the clauses is scope. Then we move to the normative references, term and definition, context of the organizations, leaderships, planning, supports, operational, performance evaluations, and improvements. So in this video, I am discussing only the clauses of 8 to 9. That means operations, performance evaluations, and improvements. So let's see. So clauses 8, that means operations. So what is say? So this is a core of an food safety management systems where mostly all the HACCP principles are integrated, and the moment of when doing is the key after planning your systems. So it will generally contain some sub context. That means let's we move to discuss those are one of the them one of them clauses operational planning and control. So this is an under the clauses operations. So what it says, this clauses has several differences when compared with the equivalent of the 2005 versions. So it is more precise about the organization's responsibility regarding the process that are needed to meet requirements, and provides examples on how to do it. That means establishing the criteria, implementing control of the process, and demonstrating that process have been carried out as planned. So it's also introduced the necessary to the implement actions in the risks and the opportunities assessments. So prerequisite program, another one of the subsections of clauses 8, that means operations. So prerequisite programs are a key aspect of any food safety systems. There are some differences when compared with the 2005 version, as the word update was added in establish, implementing, maintaining, and the update. That means PRPS. So decision tables, which is implementing and selecting by organizations what shall ensure and what should considers, as compared to as shall ensure like applicable statutory and regulatory. Then should consider as ISO, that means, or TS 2000 series, mutually agreed customer requirements. Then should consider as standards, codes of the practice, and guidelines. So here the wording is very important. The standard includes in the term shall indicates a mandatory requirements and should indicate a recommendations. So this signifies that the only requesting organizations must implement and are once present in the standards. Since ISO TS 2002 series requesting are not compulsory. So the list of prerequisites in the new ISO 22000 closely resembles those addresses in the 2005 version. The two main differences are the in addition to the terms product information or consumers awareness as a supplier approvals. Although it is probable that most organizations have some related procedures in place to address the management of purchased materials that was present in the previous versions. So traceability system, another one of the subsections of clauses 18 of clauses 8, sorry. The new standards presents a list of the topics that organizations should consider when the establishing traceability systems. Say for examples, reworking of materials product and the relations between the loss of the received materials, ingredients and intermediate products to the end products. The mandatory verifications and testing of the traceability system effectiveness, is presented in the 2018 versions. So although this was not specified in 2005 versions, the guide for its applications did include a references to making tests. So what is totally now? That means what is totally new? However, is the references to quantities reconciliations. That means end product versus ingredients. So here hazard control is the most importance of subsections of closet 8, that means operations. So hazard control consists another four sections. So one of the section is the preliminary steps to enable the hazard analysis. So here what it says, the first step of hazard control is to identify the raw materials, ingredients, products, contact materials and end products, and to prepare a flow diagrams and describe process. In these new versions, more details is provided regarding the information that shall be collected to the carry out and hazards analysis. The previous versions only mention all the relevant information need to conduct hazard analysis. Now, it is clear that at a minimum, the information that shall be collected by food safety them should include. Those are statutory, regulatory, and customer requirements, products, processes, and equipment, and last one is that food safety hazards. Also, a new item has been added to the information that organizations shall maintain about raw materials, ingredients, product context materials, namely to source. So this new information is also in place to clarify some misunderstanding that the term origin, which is used in the last person's brought. In fact, the new word is placed origins, which makes it more obvious that the organization shall identify the provenance of the products. So regarding flow diagrams and their preparations, it has been specified that the introductions of processing aids, packaging materials, and utilities to the flow cells, including the diagrams. So the numbers of issues that are the food safety terms must addresses when describing the processes for the hazard analysis was expanded too. So this is a just a diagram which shows the issues that food safety term must addresses. So here the main point is that five external requirements. One of them is layout of premises, processing equipment and contact materials, processing aids and flow of materials, and for these variations resulting from seasonal change or shift patterns, and three existing PRPS process patterns and controls measures procedures. These are the some of flow charts which shows the issues that food safety term must addresses. So another one of the subsections is hazard analysis. So where the 2005 version include the implication understanding that the food safety terms shall conduct hazard analysis based on the primarily information. In the new version, it states the explicitly at the beginning. So there are also changes to the kind of the information that shall be used to identify food safety hazards. The organization shall now use also internet informations as well as the statutory, regulatory, and customer requirements for that purpose. When it comes to identifying the hazards, it was added that organizations shall now consider all the steps in the flow diagram and persons. In hazard assessments, two very interesting remarks were added, like likelihood of occurrence shall be determined prior to the applications if control measures and the severability evaluations and relations to the intended use. And after hazard identification, determinations of acceptable levels and hazard assessment, the next step is to select the categorized control measures. For this, new versions present several aspects to take into consideration, but three things are worthy of special considerations. Those are assessing the feasibility of establishing measurable critical limits and measurable observable action criteria. This is not entirely new since something was already mentioned in ISO 2004 2014. And another one is that assessing the feasibility of applying timely correction in case of the failure. The use of external requirements to source control measures or impact their strictness. And here the last one of the hazard control plan is that hazard control plans. So these clauses combines information that was previously divided into two separate clauses, establishing the operational prerequisite program and establishing the hazard plan. The SDs in recognize that the hazard control plan is include not only the critical limits at CCP, that means critical control point, but also action criteria for ORPS. Regarding the monitoring systems, the new version introduced that the need to document the monitoring methods used and is aids to the possibility of using equivalent methods for verifications of reliable measurements or observations in the case of ORPS. Then we move to the clauses 8.6, that means updating the information specifying the PRPS and the hazard control plans. So these clauses remains very similar to the equivalent of 2005 versions. Besides of using a hazard controls plan to substitute what was the previously considering as operational PRPS and hazard plans, it introduced the requirements to update raw materials, ingredients and product contact materials characteristics after establishing the hazard control plan. Then the clauses are control of monitoring and measuring. So there is a no major difference in the clause, but some adjustments that make it clearly and more specific. The generic statement in the previous versions, the organization shall provided evidence that the specified monitoring and measuring methods or equipments are adequate to ensure the performance of the monitoring and the measuring procedures has uh, now have been cleared as mandatory for monitoring and measuring activities related with the PRP and the hazard control plan. So the main thing is this: the clauses is more demanding when it comes to the use of software for monitoring and measuring, demanding validations of the adequacy prior to use and whenever it is challenges. That means changes and update. Then we move to the clauses 8.8, verification related to PRPS and hazard control plans. So there are mainly three differences in this clause that are worth exploring. Those are one of them is more than just the implementations of PRPS shall become confirmed, but also its effectiveness. Then second was that rewarding of the operationals and hazard plan to hazard controls plan is also to be noted. The new versions indicates the needs to take corrective actions whenever the non-conformity is found on the testing and end product is direct process samples. And the last one of the sub clauses of operation is that control of product and process non-conformities. So right from the titles, it's directly clear that the process non-conformities shall be controlled. The process non-conformities are addressed in clauses 9.2. That means which details the informations that shall be retained to the descript correction made. A general clause is added right at the beginning to the define that only designated persons and may evaluate non-conformities and initially corrections and corrective actions. In the 2005 version, this information was dispersed throughout the clauses. So, here the organizations are now clearly required to take actions to review the non-conformities identifications by consumer or in regulatory inspections reports. So it is now also unambiguous that any products that fails to remain within the critical limits at CCPs shall not be released and treated according to the clauses like dispositions of non-conformities products. So here we come to the clauses 9, that means performance evaluations. So there are three main ways in which performance of a food safety management system is evaluated. The first being is process monitoring and measurement, and the second being through the internal audits, and the third being the management review. So let's discuss briefly. So first we move to the process performance. One of the section is that. So as an organization, you will need to decide what you need to monitor and measure in order to be assured that your processes are operating as initiated. So you will also need to establish how often you will monitor and measure, what resources will be required, how results will be recorded, analyzed and evaluated, and who will carry out those evaluations. This often resulting in a series of key performance indicators which related directly to your food safety objectives. You will need to retain the documented information as evidence of the resulting of performance evaluations and use them as an input to the management review and the updating of food safety management systems. So this is a process performance. So the next section is the internal audits. So ISO 2018 determines that internal audits must be carried out as a planned intervals. So it is for us, which organization to decide what those intervals should be. As an indication, so you may wish to audit all the process at least one across an annual period with higher risk processes. Being audited more frequently, the purpose of internal audits is twofold. Firstly, to check the management systems conforms to the requirements specified by you, the organizations as necessary for your operations. Secondly, to ensure the conformity to the requirements of ISO 2018. Audit frequency should also be influenced by the result of previous audits, and any actions which you are aware may affect previous audits and any changes which you will aware from affect the process. So if you will have problem process or area, it will make sense to audit it more frequently for suppose you can say for a while until a solution is implementing and has been seen to be effective. So the standard also says that the auditors should conduct audits to the ensure objective and implementation of the audit process. So this is something inherently difficult to internal auditors have a close relationship with the organizations being audited. However, sensible guidelines so that internal auditors do not audit their own processes solely strive for. So internal audits are a great opportunity to spend some time investing a specified process and area and evaluating its performance. So it is an ideal way to find areas to improvement and to fix potential issues before they occur. Think of the internal audits as keeping your finger on the pulses of your organizations. So internal audits finding must be reported to the food safety team and relevant management and necessarily from part of the management review agenda. So where necessary corrections and corrective actions must be taken without undue delay. If a long-term fix requires significant planning and it may be found approval, consider whether a short-term fix is possible and appropriate. So next third one is that management review. So management review is an essential element of food safety management systems. The aim of the review for is to top management access to the performance of the management system to ensure it has been effective, adequate, or sufficient for the needs to be businesses. Ultimately, prevention unsafe food products of or services to consumers. The management review is also planned actively to review the objectives, including the compliance and set now objective. In generally, that means usually, or you can say usually, management review meetings are conducted annually. So, however, many organizations conduct management reviews every 6 months or quarterly to track performance of the systems. If more frequent meetings are conducted, often the meetings agenda It's reduced with the full agenda occurring annually. So you will need to retain documented information on your management reviews. Those will normally be meetings minutes or perhaps call recordings if you carry out conference call. So this is a brief description of clauses 9. That means performance evaluations. Next we move to the last section. That means last causes improvement. So improvements. So these sections requires your organizations to determine the and implementation opportunities for improvement to comply with the determined intents, purpose of the product. What is the expect from customers and prevent and reduce undesired effect while continually improving the systems. So here we can say non-conformity and corrective actions. It is a subsection. So what is that? What says that? So let's we discuss. So now ISO 2018 refers to all those non-conformities that come up from the management system and not just from the operation level, as we discussed in the previous sections. So a methodology to capture, manage and resolve needs to be undertaken, and the standards ask for the following. So react to the non-conformity aids and applicables as take actions to control and correct it. Deal with the consequence including the migrating adversarial environment plans and evaluate the needs for the action to eliminate the causes of the non-conformities in order that it does not occur. So improvement and action needed. Another one of the and last one is that or we can say make changes to the food safety management system if necessary. Otherwise, it not. If necessary, then we can go for make changes to the food safety management systems. So another one section is that is its continual improvement. The standard states that the organization shall continuously improve the suitability, adequately and effectiveness of the food safety management systems. So in the other words, if all the above sections are established and implemented as well as the food safety management system updating, then continual improvement will occur. So this is a section. So another one of the section is that it says like update of the food safety management systems. So this section has not changed in 2018 versions. So as a summary, the top management must provide the resources needed to ensure the system is continually updated. The food safety team shall evaluate the food safety management system at planned intervals, considering the hazard analysis and identify the ORPS and CCPs. The evaluations must be based on the internal and external communications, conclusions from analysis and result of the verification activities, outputs from the management review meetings, and any other information related to the adequacy and effectiveness of the food safety management systems. Those updates must be retained as documented information and reported as input of the management review. So here the last point is that how a food safety management systems can help us. So a safety management systems for food can ensure regulatory compliance to ISO standards by actively controlling risks and hazards throughout the food process. So significant biologically, chemical or physical hazards are identified at a specific points. So one is identified, those hazards can be prevented, eliminated or reduced to the safe level. So these are some points how can they help us, others also be there. So here I am concluding my presentations. So anyone have any doubts, then you can ask me.